Physics of life. Failures are just like impulsive forces. Although they act for a short time, they may bring a large change in your momentum towards success. A very good morning, children. We'll continue with the chapter sound. Let us recall what you have learnt in the last class. Last class we learned that sound is a form of energy. Why it is called as energy? Because it creates a sensation of hearing. How is sound produced? Yes, it is produced by vibration of objects. Sound is a longitudinal wave because the particles of the medium vibrate parallelly to the wave propagation. Sound travels faster in solids and liquids than in gases. We are able to hear the sound waves of frequencies between 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. Sound waves below 20 Hz are called as infrasonics and above 20,000 Hz are called as ultrasonics. Sound waves undergoes reflection as well as refraction. In human beings, larynx is the source of sound and here helps us to hear the sound. Yes, today's class we will be learning about the larynx and the human ear followed by characteristics of sound. Sound produced by animals and human beings. First let us see animals. Animals produce sound by means of vocal cords. Even they too have a voice box which makes them to produce sound. Birds produce sound by syrinx. Syrinx is nothing but the voice box in birds is called as syrinx. They produce the sound by using voice box, that is syrinx. Insects produce sound by flapping their wings. Some of the sounds which we come across in nature is the buzzing sound of bees, frogs croaks, snakes hisses, and so on. Let us come to human beings. We are so blessed that we can produce sound as well as we can hear the sound. So let us see how we can produce the sound. The source of sound is because of larynx. Larynx is the voice box which we have to produce sound. As you know that from the mouth you have two pipes leading to our chest cavity. The foot pipe connected to the stomach and the windpipe connected to our lungs. The windpipe, on the top of the windpipe you have a flap-like structure which is called as epiglottis, which closes and opens when you swallow the food. This voice box is located at the upper end of this windpipe. You can see vocal cords which have been stretched across the voice box with a narrow slit. When air is forced or pushed through this slit, they vibrate producing sound. If the vocal cords are very tight, then you produce high frequency sound. If it is very loose and thick, then you produce low frequency sound. Then, human ear. Ear helps us to hear the sound produced around us. This is the structure of the ear. The outer part which you can see, this is called as pinna. The outer part of the ear leads to a canal-like structure which we call it as auditory canal. Towards the end of this auditory canal, you have a thin, soft, delicate membrane called as eardrum or tympanic membrane. It is very delicate. If this membrane gets damaged, then you will not be able to hear the sound. This is the part of outer ear. Then we'll come to the middle ear where you have three small bones. You can see here three small bones. These are the very small bones present in the human body. They are incus, malleus and stapes, which connect you to the inner part of the ear. These three provided with the oval window, you can see a snail-like structure which is called as cochlea. This cochlea is surrounded by receptor cells which will absorb the sound waves and convert them into nerve impulse and send the information to the brain with the help of auditory nerve. So let us see how the mechanism of hearing takes place. The sound waves reaches our ear, that is pinna, and travels through the auditory canal and strikes the membrane, tympanic membrane or eardrum. This will start vibrating, and this vibration is passed on to malleus, incus and stapes. And again the vibration is passed through this cochlea which has got the receptor cells which will absorb the sound waves and convert it into nerve impulse and carry it to the brain with the help of auditory nerve. From the middle ear you have a tube leading to your mouth which is called as eustachian tube. This is how the hearing mechanism takes place. If the eardrum is damaged, then the vibrations cannot be passed on to the other parts of the ear, hence you cannot hear the sound. So this quick summarization, we have a pair of ears placed on either side of our head. This external ear is called as pinna, which receives the sound waves and direct them to the eardrum through auditory canal. And from tympanic membrane or eardrum, the sound waves set their vibrations to the small bones malleus, incus and stapes. From this, the vibrations are carried out to a snail-like structure called cochlea, from where it is getting converted to nerve impulse and then carried to the cerebral cortex, that is the brain, by auditory nerve. From the middle ear, you have a tube connecting to your mouth cavity which is called as eustachian tube. So the vibrations of spoken words or music reach our ears through this tube. Next, characteristics of sound. We can easily recognize the voices of our friends, or the sound produced from one person to another is different. We are able to recognize those different sounds. So the basic characteristics of this sound is loudness, pitch and quality. What is loudness? It is the degree of sensation produced in the ear. You have greater amplitude, louder is the sound produced. Loudness of sound is expressed in decimals. So loudness depends upon amplitude. Greater amplitude, louder sound. Lesser amplitude, feeble sound. Next, pitch. Pitch distinguishes between a sharp or a shrill sound and a soft sound. Again, pitch is dependent on frequency. Higher frequency, higher pitch. Lower frequency, lower the pitch. So, higher pitch, shriller the sound. Lower pitch, softer the sound. Pitch of the sound depends upon three factors. One is the length of the vibrating body, the tightness with which it is stretched, and the thickness of the vibrating body. Quality of sound. This enables you to distinguish between music and noise. Musical notes, or you can recognize which is very pleasant to your ears and which is not pleasant to your ears. So quality of sound helps us to identify the source of sound. Next, musical sound and noises. The sounds which produce pleasing effect on the ear are called as music. It is produced by regular vibrations. If you have a regular vibrations, then the sound produced is very pleasing, hence it is called as music. The sound which produce irritation and unpleasant effect are called as noises. It is produced by irregular vibrations. Musical instruments. There are a number of musical instruments which produces a pleasing effect on us. The sound produced by these musical instruments is called as notes or swara. They have different frequencies, hence they are different from each other. The musical instruments can be divided into three different ways. One is stringed instruments. The stringed instruments have got strings that vibrate when plucked or stroked with a bow. The pitch can be changed by altering the length. You have already studied that pitch depends upon the length of the vibrating object. Therefore, if you vary the length of the string, then you can vary the pitch. Here are some of the examples: violin, sitar, guitar, harp, and this is harp and piano. Percussion instruments. Here, the taut membrane produces sound. The smaller and tighter the membrane, higher is the pitch. The membrane over this instruments is made to vibrate by striking them. For example, drums, tabla, cymbals, school bells, temple bells. All these are the example of percussion instruments. Wind instruments. The vibrating air passing through the lips of a person playing the instrument is blown into them. The length of the column of air in the instrument determines the pitch. You have trumpet, bugle, flute, shennai, clarinet and harmonium, which are wind instruments. And lastly, jal tarang. You have a bowl made up of glass or a china clay which are filled with water at different levels, and on striking them with drumstick they give out musical sound of different pitch. Echo, reflection of sound. Whenever the sound waves strike a surface, it gets reflected back into the same medium. That is called as reflection of sound. This repeated sound heard after reflection from a rigid obstacle is called echo. To produce an echo, the distance between the obstacle and the person should be 17 meters. And this sound remains in the human ear for a period of 1/10 of a second. This is called as persistence of hearing. A good example is whenever you climb a hill, we all have the habit of screaming some names on the top of the hill. If you scream only once, you can get back the sound many number of times. That is called as echo. Some of the insects make use of this reflection of sound to catch its prey. One good example is bat. It produces ultrasonic waves and sends it in the surroundings. These waves, when it strike on the prey, it gets reflected back to the insect, and hence it will calculate the distance of that prey from it and catches the prey. And then if you have observed in an empty auditorium, you can experience the echo because it gets reflected back. But whereas when the auditorium is filled, you cannot experience the echo because the reflected sound is getting absorbed by the materials present in the auditorium. Hearing impairment. This can be due to various reasons. Hearing impairment can be total or partial. It can be usually from birth, or it can be result of aging, disease or any injury. In the people who cannot hear, we have a sign language to communicate with them. It is observed that children who are suffering from hearing impairment also suffer from defective speech also. With this, we complete the chapter sound. I hope you have understood and gone through the lesson. Please go through the lesson. Here you have a small project. You need to write a page about noise pollution with pictures. You have to follow these points. First you need to write what is noise pollution, what is the cause for noise pollution, what are its effects, and lastly how to control noise pollution. I'll end the session with a question here. If there is an explosion on the moon, would it be heard on the earth? Keep thinking. I'll end the class, children. Thank you.